Welcome back, Two Steppers, to your latest Choosin Texas special. We have got a very, very special guest on the show today, someone whose music I can't get enough of and listen to all the time. If you've listened to our radio show, you will know that there are several songs of his that I just have on a loop. So without further ado, let's bring up the wonderful Ryan Nelson.
How's it going?
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing great.
And obviously, it's evening time over here. I can see that it's daytime with you. So, where about in the world are you? What time are you on right now?
I am in White House, Tennessee, which is about probably 15 miles north of Nashville. It's the first nice day we've had in a while. So all the everything's flying around, everyone's out. It's a pretty day.
Oh, I love that. But not where you're from originally, right?
Yeah, I'm from Florida originally, so it's pretty much a sunny day every day.
Yeah, yeah. I was going to say because I know that you're a big Jacksonville Jaguars fan. I've seen that on your socials.
Oh yeah,
Um, and they had a great season last season, right?
it was really good. We were
All the
pretty
way to
pumped.
playoffs.
Yeah, we've been bad most of my life, so
Mm-hmm.
it's good to have a good one here and there.
But we are not here to talk about football, right? We're here to talk about music. So, my two greatest passions in life, football and music.
Heck yeah, me too.
Love that. So, let's jump straight in. And can you tell me a little bit about where did your music journey start?
Yeah, so I started playing music. I was probably 12 when I got my first guitar and acoustic, $100 acoustic guitar. And I learned some songs off the rip just to kind of get me, my feet situated in it. But then I started writing songs pretty quick, and that turned into making bands and doing that whole thing. So I probably start. I think I played my first show like as an artist when I was 15, and then that led to touring by 16. We get our driver's license at 16 here in the states. So once I could start driving, then touring with the bands and doing stuff like that. And I finally came to Nashville in 2014.
Okay. And
So I've been
how
here
did
12
that come
years.
about? How did that kind of come about? What made you move to Nashville?
Well, I was in college at Florida State University, and I graduated with my bachelor's degree. And I I didn't really want to go into my dad's business, which is construction contracting, and I always was good at writing songs. So I was like, well, guess I'm going to Nashville.
Makes sense. Totally makes sense.
Yeah.
And what kind of gave you your foot up, if you like, into the world of recording music and releasing your songs? Because there's so many writers out there who write incredible stuff and never quite make it to the recording studio, never quite make it to that point of releasing their songs for consumption.
Yeah, it's a whole nother part of it. Like there's the writing side, there's the artist, like being the artist releasing the music side, and then there's the being a producer side of things, which I dabble in all of them. So it's something that you gotta kind of go for and try, even if you don't think you're good at it yet or whatever. You just kind of do it. But we started making records when I mean, probably 16, 17. Friends of mine just in a garage, and went from that to um, making my first like country records when I started playing country music full time. Me and a buddy of mine, Spencer, we just, you know, locked ourselves in his house for a couple weeks and made some recordings. I look back on them and they're not any good, but I mean, we were fearless to get started with it, and I think that's a big part of it. Is just no one knows what they're doing when they start, but you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I remember, so we actually met in Blackpool
Hmm.
2 years ago, I want to
Yeah, I
say.
think it was March or April. Yeah, of
Yeah,
24. Yep.
yeah, it was. And I remember just being so taken by the fact that you've got so many great, interesting stories to tell. I think we stood outside the bar, just, shooting the shit, chatting,
Yeah.
talking absolute, like, all the stories. And I was fascinated by all the things you've got to say. What would you say is your wildest story that is linked to your career so far? Like, what's the moment where you've been sitting thinking, is this actually happening right now?
There's a bunch of them. I would say being signed by Jelly Roll and touring with Jelly Roll, both of those things in their own right. But the getting signed by Jelly Roll was a call just like this. Pretty much, I had my buddy Matt Wallace, who was working with Jelly at the time, and Jelly FaceTime me, and I'm just like, they're like, "We're signing you," and I'm like, "Wow, okay." So that was
That
crazy. Um, Man, the Riley Green song I wrote on When She Comes Home Tonight went platinum this year, or I guess last year. And that was, I mean, that's crazy. I mean, I've never signed any pub deals. The only thing I ever signed was the deal with Jelly Roll. So, I'm not a big, I try to play on my own team, but sometimes you get some successes, and that's pretty crazy to get a platinum record, no doubt.
No, 100%. And I am a massive Jelly Roll fan, and I also love his wife, Bunny.
Oh
She
yeah, oh
is
yeah. Spent a lot of time
incredible.
around them. They're a good group.
That was my next question. Like, are they just as fun and wild and like funny
Yeah,
as
it's
they
pretty
come
much
across?
exactly what you see on their social media. That's pretty much how they are all the time. Yeah,
Oh,
it
incredible.
is like that. I mean, Jelly's a character. She's a character. They're really that way.
Yeah, no, I love that. So some of my favorite songs that I have literally on repeat, and I spam my group chats. I'm like, guys, you need to listen to this, and every time it comes on, Show Up Drunk is like an anthem for me. I'm like, love this one.
Yeah,
um it's one of those like windows down, driving along the road, and I've got it blasted right through my speakers.
yeah.
So what song would you say of yours means the most, and why?
Oh man, there's a couple. So, um, yeah, I appreciate the love on "Show Up Drunk." That's definitely what that song's for. It's not meant to be listened to quietly, um, but there's the more serious side of things, and one of the songs, it's kind of an older one. It's called "The Way My Heart Breaks." That was
Hmm.
one of my first really great songs I wrote. Where you write it and you go, I could tell that I just took a step up uh,
Yeah.
from writing that song. It was far and away better than anything I'd written before it. So I was like, okay, and you try to set a new standard for yourself. Like once you write a song that's that good, you try to not miss that mark too much. You try to stay near that mark. So you're always
Yeah.
stepping up in your game. That was a big step up in my game, and it's a good heartbreaker. It's my definitely most streamed song by women. So thanks, ladies, for that one. So that one's big for me. And then also I put out a song. It really hasn't been heard much, but it's called "Way Back When." And I like to not even tell people what it's about. I'd rather you go listen to it and figure out what you think it's about. But it's really about you know elderly neglect and loneliness and um, you know life going on around you and such. So it draws up a lot of emotions for people, even if they don't really know what it's about in the moment.
Yeah, and I think country music does that, doesn't it? It tells stories. The old saying is, three chords and the truth, and that's you've got a country song.
Absolutely.
Um, but how does it feel being vulnerable when you're writing? Because there has to be some sort of vulnerability in terms of, whether it's emotional experiences that you've been through or whether it's just putting yourself out there as a writer, as a musician, as an artist. How do you find that vulnerability?
I think in the moment when you're doing it, it's like, in Nashville, we'll go do a co-write with three people. Typically, when I'm gonna write a really like emotional song or like one of those heavy hitter kind of songs, it's going to be me and one other person or by myself. So you'll get the best because it's easier to be vulnerable with one person or, be honest with yourself and do that than it is to convince a room of three people or two other people than you to go down this kind of sad rabbit hole. So it definitely helps to have less people involved. And I think, you know, when it comes to sad songs and stuff, people are not always going to want to hear it. But when you do listen and it impacts you, you realize how important those kinds of songs are. So it's, you know, you,
Yeah.
you know the importance when you're putting it out. You're like, this is an important song to me. And even if I'm being ultra vulnerable and people think I'm dumb for this or laugh at me because of it, yeah, I meant it. So it's worth it to me, you know?
Yeah, and I think people need different songs at different times in life, don't they? So like, so if you're happy and you're, living your best life, you're going for those upbeat songs that you can like you said, blast out in the speakers in the car, drive
Right.
along the road to. And then there's times where you're going through shit and you just need someone to connect to on a level that you think you're heard, you're understood through the lyrics.
Right. Well, having some like knowing that somebody else has been right where you are, like you don't feel as crazy if you're feeling crazy, like should I be feeling this? And then you hear somebody talking about the exact thing, feeling the same way. You're like, well, clearly this is not just me. So it helps you. I don't know, helps you rationalize everything that you're going through.
Yeah, it does. It makes you feel more sane. Um, so I look back to like my childhood, and my childhood was very much I was raised on John Denver and the Willie Nelson and the classics. My grandparents raised me right.
Yeah.
Um, but is there any songs, and it doesn't have to be country songs, but are there any songs that you wish you had written that you're like, this song, I wish I had written
Oh
that
man,
song?
there's a few. There's a few that I've wanted to cut over the years. One is called "In It" by Jake Owen. That song was written by Josh Thompson, who's one of my favorite artists and writers. He's got great records, um, but he also is a prolific songwriter, and a bunch of his songs have been cut by other artists. That's one of his best songs. I heard it years before it came out on Jake's record, so I was like, "Man, I want to do that song." So that's definitely one. And yeah, I'm a big James Taylor fan and a big Beatles fan, and some of the complexity in the music they were making, while it was still like at the time like a pop hit, like it
Yeah,
was like the music of the day, and yet the it was so complex and beautiful. Like modern music doesn't really value complexity; it wants it to be more accessible and simple. And I feel like the Beatles and James Taylor, they were so accessible and very complex at the same time. It's hard to do that. There's only a few that have really done it. Dave Matthews. I'm not the biggest Dave Matthews guy, but he definitely does that. And
yeah,
there's every now and again some artists that can make very complex music seem simple. You
yeah.
know?
And I'm a massive fan of lyrics. I'm an English teacher. That's my day job.
Yes.
And so I teach poetry and I teach, looking at metaphor and looking at the more complex side of things, right?
Right.
And one of the things that I find a lot is that need for simplicity, that need for I just want to be told what to think and feel when I listen
Right.
to a song, right? Um, and then you get, there are don't get me wrong, there are artists now coming through who have got fantastic use of metaphor throughout their lyrics.
Right.
Um, but is that kind of pressure to make it as simple as possible? Is that something that's in your mind, or do you just go with how you want to write, how you feel?
I typically I'm gonna write whatever I'm feeling then, or me or one of my friends that I'm writing with is gonna have a hook that they have been thinking about and looking at over and over again, and so they finally pitch it, or I pitch my little hook out of my hook book or whatever. So it usually kind of comes about naturally based off of how you start the thing. But I would say one of the reasons I never signed a publishing deal is you go down there on the row and you're scheduled out like sometimes 2-3 times a day, and you're doing it over and over again. And if you're writing 7 songs a week, you're worn out. You're not going to be wanting to dig deeper than you got to go right now on a second write of a Tuesday afternoon.
Hmm.
Your girlfriend's sick, and so it's
Yeah,
like, so there's a balance with it. Sometimes you just know when you're on the road that the they do on the radio like to keep things pretty simple. So you won't they'll say, "Oh, I think that's a little too flowery," when we
hmm,
get like too lyrical. they'll say, "Oh, a little too flowery, like too pretty," right? We want to
Yeah.
keep it straightforward and easy to understand on the row, which is why I typically write at my house.
Yeah. No, and I love that. I think that it's keeping your identity as a musician and as a writer is
Right.
so important. And we see it all the time where, you know, you see artists and they'll start out, they'll have an amazing first album, and then all of a sudden they get that success and then they get more and more input from different sources
Right. They made
and
the
it
first
dilutes
album with all
them.
their friends, and then they made the
Yeah.
second album with all the people the label thought they should work with.
Yeah, and it
Usually how it
dilutes
goes.
it. Yeah, and we see it all the time. And
Yep.
you know, I work with, and we're friends with a lot of independent artists over here in the UK and stateside as well.
Hmm.
Um, and we are very fortunate that we get that raw side where they're like, "Hey, I've written a couple of lines. Could you? What do you think of this?" Or you know, they'll send us
Yep.
a sound bite, and do you think? And looking back, some of them have gone on and are doing really, really incredible things now.
Yep.
And you know, you think back to those starting stages, and what advice would you give them to kind of not be diluted, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, one of the things I tell people in Nashville in particular, but this applies anywhere, is like, if you're chasing what's cool right now, you're already behind. You need to find your group, find your people that support you, that write with you well, and make great songs and be unabashed about them and keep writing them, and don't second guess them, and just be you, and find what you and your crew, what that sounds like and what y'all do best. And if you're making great songs, somebody's gonna hear it,
Yeah,
And so I think it's just, especially in Nashville, people think like, oh, I got to town and I got to write with Ray Fulcher, let's say. Like, I love Ray. He wrote a bunch of Luke Combs stuff, and he's a fantastic writer and also a super sweet guy. So anybody that meets Ray is like, oh my God, I just wrote with Ray Fulcher. Like, it's crazy. And it is crazy. It's awesome. But people come to town and they're like, well, I wrote with Ray, and so I'm going to keep writing with all these bigger people. And it's like, that's actually not the way to do it. Because to a bigger writer, you're just another writer in the group of people that they write with, and they got a bunch of big friends who
yeah,
are kind of in line ahead of you there. So if you make great friends with people who are where you're at the same level that you're at the same motivation level that you're at, and you just build with them, that's when the success comes. No doubt.
yeah. No, I love that. So obviously, it's been what, 2 years since we met, and back then you were touring round a few venues in the UK. Obviously,
Hmm.
back stateside now. I bet a lot has changed in 2 years since we last spoke, right? What's going on now?
Oh man, so I did one more England run last year, and I did some shows in Ireland as well. And we tacked on a few more dates on my last England run, which was nice. Um, got to get up to Blackpool and hang with Gareth and such. Go to the boot shop, it's a good time.
Yeah,
But yeah, I had a blast doing that. I've spent the last part of this last year working on some projects, producing some artists, and so kind of wrapping that up now. I put my own record out in December, and kind of wrapping up the studio side of things so I can get back on the road for the nice weather seasons.
mm. Hey, that's the plan. That's definitely a good plan. So where can we find your music, number one, and follow your social media, etc. Keep up with your journey for anybody who doesn't already.
Yeah, TikTok is going to be, TikTok and Instagram are at It's Ryan Nelson. And on Spotify, go give me a follow, or Apple, whichever one you do. But I just put out a new record called The Next One, and it's 9 songs, a full-length record, and I'm very proud of it, and proud of the people that worked on it with me, and really just excited to have music out again. Going to be working on some more music, but in the meantime, trying to get out and bring this new record to people.
Well, we would love to see you back this side of the pond very soon. If there is any plans, and please make sure I
Yeah,
hit you
we're
up.
trying to work it out right now.
we will get the whole group of us at Southern Roots Radio involved in that if you're coming back over.
Would
So
love it. Would love it.
absolutely let us know. But thank you so much for your time tonight. I appreciate it.
No
I know you're a
problem.
busy man.
No
um,
problem.
and thank you, Two Steppers, for listening in to this episode of Choosin Texas podcast. We will see you live on the radio Tuesday night, 9 p.m. till 10 p.m. And you will have some After Dark Choosin Texas very soon. Take
Heck
care,
yeah.
guys.
Thank
Bye.
you.